first annual Fish and Grits, the podcast post-game breakdown of the Atlanta Falcons after a win. We just finished the game here about 20 to 30 minutes ago against the Minnesota Vikings. We went up there and looked like a complete team for the first time this season. We did some things that we hadn't done in the past, and we seemed like we had the fire lit under us that we had been lacking all season for a whole game. Now, both teams going into this game were combined 1-9. So the Falcons very well could have just been the better of the bad teams in this battle. But the big things is we came out with the W. We looked like a different team in a lot of areas. We looked like we were executing things a little bit differently. And we looked like a team that was a little better coached. Now, personnel-wise, there were no major changes made. There was only 3 things that were really changed from last week to this week, and that was Ben Kotwika, our special teams coordinator, was fired. Dan Quinn, the head coach, was fired. And Thomas Dimitroff, our general manager, was fired. So we as a whole, are the same. Just with some, I would say the influences are a little different now. With Raheem Morris taking over as the head coach, Jeff Ulbrich taking over as the defensive coordinator full-time, and then, of course, our favorite, Dirk Cutter, is still our full-time offensive coordinator. So let's cover some of the things that happened in this game that we liked. We'll stay away from some of the dislikes in this game, and we'll cover the good stuff first, Micah. So what did you see in this game that you liked from the Falcons? And welcome to the meeting, Marco.
What's up, Marco? The first things first, we finished the game. Way too often than not, in the Dan Quinn era, we get leads and we try to coast. We try to coast to the finish. They didn't take their foot off the gas pedal. I mean, we threw a touchdown pass with 3 minutes left in the game while up multiple scores. I mean, that's one of the things I love to see. It's like, the game, put teams away. Don't give them a chance to get momentum and start to get back in the game. As an offense, don't allow, as dominant as our offense can be, you do not want to put the pressure on your defense to have to win games for you. Do it yourself. Just go like, all right, we're gonna force you to stop us. If you want to get back in this game, you have to stop us. So and we did that today. Defensively, actually, I saw a lot of good things from the defense. The pass rush got after it. They hit Kirk Cousins quite a few times. We didn't get a lot of sacks, but we got a lot of hits and forced some turnovers. Forced some good turnovers for one of the first time since the Dallas game. So, I mean, there were some really good things. Now, I don't think Minnesota is a bad team, because you saw last week against Seattle what they're capable of. I just think we played very well on both sides of the ball this game, and they might be a little rattled after the loss to Seattle, but we did play a very good game today.
I agree. What about you, Marco? What were the things that you saw in this game that we either executed better than we had previously, or things that we have added to the game or our team since this coaching change?
Well, first I want to say this is like typical Falcons, to look like a team, to look like the team you expected to see week 1 at a time when no one expects anything from them. When there's ever any pressure on the Falcons, they always bust. But when the second people start like just being like, okay, yeah, they're just gonna lose, that's when they want to step up and be like, oh, well, we're good. We've been okay. It's like whatever. But I mean, it's good to see Julio back, and he's so huge for this team. He is this team. Without Julio, the defense looks stressed and our offense is pedestrian. You know what I mean? Because Julio is the best possession receiver in the like almost ever in football. Like he's gonna move the chains. And I'm glad he scored some touchdowns this game as well. I mean, that's it's always a welcome sight. But they played really good, man. There's not much you can say bad. And I think Minnesota is they're not a good team, obviously, or they wouldn't be 1-5, but I think they've been competitive in every game they've been in. You know what I mean? They haven't been blown out. They play competent football. We all know Kirk Cousins. We know who he is, and he did what we expected him to do.
He is who we thought he was.
Right, he is who we thought he was. But most weeks that would get the Falcons beat. But we actually played. Like I said, we just came out as the team that everybody thought we were going to be, when no one cares if we are that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, considering we entered an area or a record that historically no team has made the playoffs in. This is now the time that we decide that we're going to turn it on. Now, unless we go something like 10-1, 11-0, we're not making the playoffs. I mean, maybe 9-2 would get us there, maybe, but the NFC is really deep this year. So I don't really see, more than one team making it 9-7, especially as deep as the NFC West is this year. But yeah, I agree that this is at a time where, in times where we need to win, we don't. In times where we don't need to win, here we are again.
Right.
So I'll say areas that I really, really enjoyed was the play of the secondary. Yet again, now that Raheem Morris has taken control of it completely, granted he was the defensive coordinator these last 5 games, there was still the imprint of Dan Quinn. What's up, Marco? You're really close.
I was to my foot. Sorry.
It was still Dan Quinn's scheme that we were running. It was Raheem Morris executing that scheme. I saw a lot more cover 2 being played in this game, and not 2-man under, but just like a Tampa 2, where you let your really fast athletic linebackers drop back into zones and cover people. The very first play of the game was actually a Tampa 2 coverage.
Mm-hmm.
We had Debo drop back into zone, and guess who's in perfect position to make a play on underneath ball, where we've been getting killed all season. You let your safeties like Ricardo and Keanu get deep and make plays on the ball that way, and your corners were in position on the outside to drive on the ball and come up in the run plays, because both of our corners are very aggressive in the run game. AJ Terrell is an excellent tackler, as we saw multiple times this game, and Oliver is not afraid to come put a hat on the ball either. So I think we've seen a shift. We still run a lot of that cover 3 shell, because that's how this team is built, but I think we're going to see a shift away from that as well. So I will say the biggest thing I like this game is the way that the defense was played and the defense executed. Even though you saw some busted plays there down the end, those are just athletic guys making plays. Like Justin Jefferson's a freak, and Kendall Sheffield was there, but he just is too strong for Kendall Sheffield. Too tall, too strong, too fast. Other than the fourth quarter, we played great defense. The D-line, like Micah mentioned earlier, we did not generate a lot of sacks, but there was pressures. Let's take a look and see how many quarterback hits we actually had. So we put 8 hits on Kirk Cousins in this game. The Minnesota line is okay. They do have some good players that they've drafted. They just haven't gelled yet. But let's see. Alan Bailey generated 2, Grady Jarrett 2, and Deion Jones, Edmund Robinson, Steven Means, and Michael Walker all generated pressures here and put hits on Cousins. Now, the last thing on the defense that I'm going to cover before we move on is we talked about this last week, and I think it was me specifically. I said I would like to see Deion Jones and the linebackers being blitzed more. And we saw a lot of that in this game. You saw Foye being blitzed. You saw Edmund Robinson being blitzed. You saw Debo being blitzed, and it generated pressures. Just because you have fast, athletic linebackers that can cover does not mean you should always drop them into coverage like we were doing. I always think back to that run in the playoffs where we made our run to the Super Bowl. One of the things that you saw us do more than anything in that was nickelback blitzes and blitzes from our linebackers, either looping around the edges or over the center, running 2 linebackers over the center, and that would generate pressure. For instance, that one against the Packers, I don't know if y'all remember it, when Debo shot up the middle and hit Aaron Rodgers within a second. Use these guys' athletic.
Brian Poole laid him out too.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, use our athleticism. We're one of the most athletic and fastest teams in the NFL. Use those guys to generate pressure. And it looks like we're, at least for this game, it looks like that's what we're doing. So that was my one like for the game. As far as dislikes, guys, what did you see in this game that, you're like, okay, maybe not what I wanted to see, or this is, a flashback to the old Falcons. What were you seeing in this game, Marco, that you really didn't like? It doesn't even have to be a dislike. It could just be something you're like, you're okay.
It's still Dirk Cutter. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still Dirk Cutter. But the difference this game was Matt was making the passes. Dirk Cutter has proven that he sort of likes to gamble, but then doesn't necessarily strategically approach gambling well. But Matt was able to cash in on some of those bets today, and maybe that's because of weak secondary play. I don't know what the reason, but Matt looked competent today, and he did that. But yeah, I mean, certain things like dives on, just philosophically, I'll never understand a dive on 3rd or 7. I don't get that
unless they're coming out in an extremely light front and defensive back heavy. Yeah, it just
I just don't ever get it. This isn't college.
Like the whole I got to keep the defense honest thing.
And we don't have Derrick Henry. That's the only other time we'll be like, okay, I'll take a Derrick Henry on a 3rd and anything. I'll take a dive from Derrick Henry on any play.
Because that's almost a guaranteed 4 yards. Right. Even if he just falls forward on accident, it's like 3 yards. Micah, what'd you see that you didn't like?
There were a couple things. Now, I mean, I honestly can't knock Dirk too much for the game. I actually thought he called a pretty good game, considering, and especially like some of those pass plays, how they were executed, and like that last one, Hurst, how open Hurst was on that play, and in the design, run him across the formation, and he's just wide open. I think he got forced Matt to get rid of the ball a lot quicker. Call plays where he can get rid of it a lot quicker versus trying to go vertical, trying to take. It was more so called like a Shanahan scheme as opposed to Dirk Cutter calling his style in Shanahan's scheme. But I didn't like, there were the 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, go big formation and try to just run, because there were like toward the end of the game when they knew we had to run, or they knew you legitimately saw 10 guys in the box. And it's like, no, like now's the time. Hit them with hit them play action, throw it to the fullback in the flats or something. Just
keep them guessing.
Just something, catch them off guard, get the first down, but don't just like, oh, we're just going to pound it up the middle on you. Because a lot of times we wind up just getting stuffed in the backfield, and, we got to make 4th down decisions as opposed to, just easily converting 3rd downs. And defensively, the only thing that I was, what's name got picked on. Sheffield got picked on a little bit.
Yeah, surprisingly.
And now granted, Justin Jefferson is a beast, but it was just it's like, oh man, they going right after him, and which, I mean, I can understand you would go after him instead of Terrell. But they didn't even go after Oliver much. They were specifically like, Justin beat Sheffield, and that's where we're going. That's where we're going with the ball.
That was something I was going to talk about a little bit later with Oliver, is how different he looked in this game. He didn't look scared. He didn't look like he was processing the game as he was playing it. He was just playing. He played a much better game. Now, granted, it's probably because most of the time he was on Thielen, who's not a burner. He's more of a route running type of guy. He's a
Your length and your athleticism can handle what Thielen can.
right, because Thielen's not going to outrun you.
Yeah.
You both run about the same in the 40. You may actually be a little bit faster than Thielen. But yeah, I think that was the biggest thing. But I think I'll come back to that. But you had mentioned. Go ahead, Marco.
I was just gonna say, I think the fact that Sheffield was on Justin, the whole game was sort of a function of what they wanted to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And he got exploited, yeah. But I think the reason that you didn't see that change is because, they were sort of Kirk Cousins will always take what is given to him. I don't think he necessarily has like the skills to really pick apart a defense. You know what I mean? He'll just take what's given to him, and I think they just kept it that way. To keep it, because I guess that you can have one guy going and no one else really at all, and it works to the benefit of the defense.
Yeah, to cover Justin Jefferson for, I would say 80% of the game is what he was on him. Every now and then you saw AJ on him, but at 5'10", 5'11", Sheffield's if he is indeed 5'10" or 5'11", he's a shorter 5'10", whereas Justin Jefferson is a very tall 6'1", because he's tall and he's got extremely long arms, extremely long limbs. He's not a guy that, is going to get bullied and won't be able to. He's not going to not use his physical abilities against smaller corners. He knows how to box those guys out. He knows how to really win those matchups with his size. But there's another thing in the second that I wanted to touch about, and that was our boy Kiki. Were you guys watching him this game?
Yeah, a little bit.
He was everywhere. He was firing off the ball. He was coming downhill, hitting people. He was playing more like the Kiki that we're used to. That could just be, this is his 6th game back. He's a little more comfortable with his lower body, or it could be the scheme as well. It's hard to really say there with him, just because there's 2 factors that could really play into how he played. But I would say him coming down in the box and being able to be that essentially extra linebacker in there and allow Rico or whoever we have dropping deep to cover that and be effective in it, especially in the run game, is a huge boost to this team. He's only about, he's about the same size as Dion, but he's much stronger and much better against the run than Dion is. So I think that's a huge piece that we were missing here. And it was really effective, because the Vikings are a running team. That's what they want to do. They want to be able to run the ball on people. They want to be able to win it with their run game and their defense. And Madison, who a lot of people coming into this matchup were expecting him to really do big things against our defense, he had, 10 carries for 26 yards, and that was it. Amir Abdullah had 2 for 7, so we held them to 2.5 yards a carry. And that's not something that, granted they don't have Dalvin Cook, and I think Dalvin Cook would have.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
That was hilarious, though, when they played that stupid song from Hamilton with his name interposed in there, and then he just got the 2 next plays, he got plastered.
Kiki came downhill and smacked him on that very next play. I think it was like a 5-yard loss.
So fun. But yeah. I do want to point out, though, that I just feel like I don't know if it's just like, when things get changed, which is sort of why I was asking for Dan to get fired early when I was, because I think vibes are very strong. You know what I mean? The way people feel and the way they, practice and, come to work every day, it all becomes very, like it's a pattern. And I feel with Raheem in there, I just like the vibe a lot better of the team.
Same.
It seemed like there was such a better vibe. No nervousness of, okay, a bad decision is about to happen. No, I just feel like there's a lot of anxiety involved with watching Dan Quinn on the sideline, because he's just never prepared. And I didn't feel that today. And I don't know if that, like I said, I don't know if that's just a function of it being something new, but that's what
or the fact that the season's a wash.
Right.
We literally have nothing to lose at this point.
But even in points when I just feel when Dan's coaching, even in points when there's nothing to lose, it's still it's very stressful watching Dan Quinn on the sideline. Maybe just because we're so used to him, just messing things up.
I definitely felt the same way, but I think mine was basically on, whatever we do here can only be positive. There's no negative to this. If we lose, that's a positive. If we win, that's a positive. So I get what you're saying. I think as a fan, I understand that. But are you referring more to like the way the team looked or the way you felt?
Well, I think it's all in one and the same. It's like when you feel like the vibe of the team is better, they play better. You know what I mean? And things go right. You know what I mean? And that's what was going on today. Everybody was doing what we expect them to do. They were doing their jobs. Simple as that. Like, to the talent you have, do your job.
Right.
That's just what was going on today. Whereas I don't know if Dan Quinn creates almost like people have excuses to not do well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I just feel like when the team has a good vibe, you win.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm more so just feel Dan Quinn is just too friendly. The whole environment is a super friendly environment. Everybody, oh yeah, let's have fun, let's be brothers, and let's love. And when we don't want to embarrass anybody, but we just want to get wins, but not embarrass anybody. Versus Raheem Morris, first thing he says, we want to impose our will. We want to do, to show teams that we are why we're this talented. Every bit of talent, we want to show it off. We want to punish teams. And I mean, that I think that's what we've been missing. It's this kind of the attitude versus, we want to just go off. We're not going to let our foot off the gas versus, we just want to get the win. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, there was actually one thing that they talked about in the announcers interview with the coaches, that Raheem doesn't view this as an interim thing. He's like, I'm the head coach now. Yeah. He treated it as if this is his job and it's his job to lose. I think Raheem knows that in his first stint as a head coach in the NFL, he didn't really do things the way he wanted to do. And now being under Dan Quinn and seeing the things that led to him being fired could help in him, taking lessons from that as well, and not repeating some of his own mistakes with Tampa Bay and now Dan Quinn's mistakes here in Atlanta. I mean, there was a reason that Raheem was a very highly touted head coach candidate when when we hired him back on as a coordinator. There's a reason that he got the job in Tampa Bay. He's a very capable man. He's a very smart football mind, and he's a very good player manager as well.
Not to mention, who was his quarterback when he went 10-6?
Josh Freeman.
Yeah, Josh Freeman. Right. So, I mean, that team is not nearly as good as the Tampa team now, and not nearly as talented as this Falcons team. Right. I think a lot of the problems that we've seen with our mistakes this year can all be fixed in scheme change, because we've been saying this for months and really for years. This Falcons team is far too talented for it to be playing the way it is. So I think if he does the right things, you can see a good team, but it's just at this point, is it worth it? Is it really worth for us to, win 6 of our next 11?
I'll say that, I think it's a tough question, right? Because say that the problem really was just like Dan Quinn just cannot run anything. Like, he's just a disaster as a head coach. And then Raheem comes in here. I feel like if Raheem comes and has an extremely high winning percentage in these next couple of games, even if we miss the playoffs, it's going to be a tough judgment call to say, was this just because Dan could do that, but then it's almost like, it's just a flash in the pan. And it usually had to do with him giving up responsibilities, right? And,
yeah.
And then, which always sort of, I think when the season starts, it reverts back to Dan feeling confident again in some of his abilities. So he, you know what I mean? When it should always just be like, give all your responsibilities away. So yeah. To me personally, if I saw Raheem do good, I wouldn't be one to be like, nah, man, clear it out. Just get rid of him. You know what I mean? Maybe not too quick, because I'm not really, Bieniemy, yeah, but you never know with a guy who's been in the league that long, and you don't know if he's. I don't know. It's a tough call, but I feel like if he came in here and even got us in the picture at all, it's almost like you got to really truly consider him because Dan was.
I think Raheem, especially. All right, so I agree with what you're saying to an extent. I think Raheem is a capable head coach in the NFL. I think he could, take over this team and be a long-term head coach for us. My only concern is he's still attached to 28-3. He's still attached to these first these two losses during this season. He's attached to all that still as well. So I'm afraid of that culture being carried on, even though it is a complete change. But there is a positive to that as well. People haven't seen him, as a head coach in quite some time, so they don't know exactly what he's going to implement. So it's going to be a guessing game. Going into this game, the Minnesota Vikings did not know what Falcons they were going to see. They knew the players. They didn't know how we were going to execute on defense and as a whole. And you could really see, to loop it back to what Micah said earlier about the offense looking more like a Shanahan scheme, I think that has to do with Raheem. I think he pulled Dirk aside and was like, look, dummy, stop trying to throw the ball downfield. Matt Ryan's arm is dead. Cut it out. Move the pocket around. Throw these short routes. Give him more options underneath. Always give him an outlet on the sideline. And you saw that this game. How many times did you see on these play actions or these pass plays, Gurley was sitting there on the sideline as a check down every single time?
Yeah.
It was there.
Or Hayden. You were using Hayden.
Right.
That 40-yard touchdown run should have been there all season.
Right. So, I mean, I don't really give Dirk so much the credit of, hey, you're changing this. Granted, he still called the plays, but I think a lot of this had to do with Raheem saying, look here, man, what you've been doing has not been working. You can blame it on execution. You can say you're a smart guy all you want, but it hasn't worked. Change it or get gone. And I don't think, and I've seen them interact on some things, and I've seen Raheem, because Raheem's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Transparent with the way he feels about things and the way he feels about people. And when Dirk has been brought up times, you can kind of see him think about what he's about to say and then go a different way. I don't think he likes Dirk Cutter. I think Dirk Cutter is a Dan Quinn guy. And if Raheem is kept on, I don't think Dirk stays on. And unless, Dirk finally gets it. But that's just my 2 cents, and it's not backed by anything other than speculation. But it was a good win today. It felt good. As much as I was telling people I don't care if we win, I really, I'd prefer us to go 0-16 than win a few here and there, unless this is just one of our 3 in the season. But there's now only one winless team left in the NFL, and that's the Jets. Every other winless team won this week. So we and the Giants, and who was the other team?
It was just us and the Giants. And
oh yeah, that's right. There's the 3. It's Jets, Giants, Falcons were the 3 ones. So the Giants won today.
Yeah.
So we got out of that. We got off the schneid. As much as I wanted us to go 0-16, I don't want that heat. I don't want to join the Lions. I don't want to join that club. That's a club that I don't want my team's name attached to. So let's kind of talk about some things that came out this week as well. And there's been a lot of rumors about, and that's before this game, there were rumblings from fans and the press that, Matt Ryan, I think everyone kind of got on the whole, it's time for Matt Ryan to go train. I think the only person in Atlanta that would still want Matt Ryan here is probably Lionel at this point.
Not true, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some people out there.
Oh, it's a lot. It's still a lot.
Does Lionel officially still want? I haven't heard his opinion in so long.
I don't know. We haven't talked to Matt Ryan in the month, or the Lionel in a month.
Matt Ryan, we never haven't talked to Matt Ryan ever.
But then there was also people talking about it's time to trade Julio, and it's like, I mean, unless we restructure both of these deals, I don't see how it's going to work. But
Yeah.
Matt can work just because of his implicit value, but Julio, it's going to be damn near impossible to trade that contract.
at least Matt's on the field.
I think it would be easier to trade him because of who he is and the type of player he is. There would be teams willing to give us a lot for him, even in his advanced age. Like the Patriots. Right now, I believe the Patriots would give us at least a first for him. And it's just because, like, oh, we'll eat the contract. We just need that kind of player on the field for us because, like, I mean, look at the last few games that he's missed versus today and how defenses respond when he's on the field. It's just like open, like players, the C parts, the middle of the field, like opens up when he's on the field because your safeties have to keep track of where he is at all times. Cause it's like, if we lose track of where he is and he gets behind this corner, that could be ball game, which, you know, the funny thing was I was talking to my dad with that one play where the Matt scrambled and forced the corner to step up and just dumped it over his head. And I was like, you know, that's how much of a monster Julio is. A linebacker meets him on the sideline and he stiff arms the linebacker and the linebacker can't even push him out of bounds. Right. It's like, bruh, like how many receivers can stiff arm a linebacker and stop that linebacker in his tracks? Like, nah, man, I'm good. Hold up, I'm scoring this one.
Like, I could think of a few, but none of them had his speed.
Yeah.
Julio and DK right now, pretty much.
Yeah, that's about, yeah. That's
Maybe
true.
Claypool's pretty strong.
We'll have to see a little bit more of Claypool before
but bro, like linebackers in full pursuit angle, like running full speed and couldn't even and Julio was legitimately like on the sideline and just stopped him in his tracks. Like, nah, bro, this is my touchdown right here.
Just kept it moving. And there's a couple times where there was like 2 or 3 people on him and he was just dragging them.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's a beast.
So good.
Like,
but still, though, he as a skill player that gets paid that much, I still do believe it'd be harder to move him than Matt.
Oh yeah, I don't agree that we should trade him at all. And I do think trading him would be a fatal mistake. You know, even if Julio doesn't play all 16 games every season, there's an intrinsic value to Julio, and that's the way he coaches players. Mm-hmm. He has made Russell Gage. Now, granted that, you know, the coaches saw enough of him that they wanted to keep him around, but Julio has made Russell Gage. He's taken Ridley to the next level. Every season, he's teaching these guys everything he knows. He's teaching them the ins and outs and what make him great. Now, granted, neither of them will ever be as great as Julio because they don't have the physical gifts of Julio, but they can do the small things that make Julio even better. So there is no way I would ever trade Julio. By the way, the Buccaneers have picked off Aaron Rodgers twice now.
There is one thing that I need Julio to teach Ridley. Get out of bounds and
or take the yards
get upfield. Stop running back behind the first down marker trying to get the big play. Just get positive yards and get down.
He almost cost us on that one series where he caught the ball, got the first down, dipped back underneath the yard to gain, and then got tackled. So he lost those yards to gain.
Yeah.
And we wound up with a 3rd and 1 on that drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays like he's in college still. The way that
he really does.
I think he can turn up the field. Like, bro, this is the NFL, man. You're not going to be able to reverse the field or whatever the hell he's trying to do every time he jumps backwards.
He just thinks he's so much more athletic than everyone still.
Yeah, the speed is different. You got linebackers who can run you down. Shoot, you got defensive ends who run 4.5s and can run with you. Mm-hmm. So if you keep reversing field, you're gonna get yourself blasted by somebody a whole lot bigger than that safety or that cornerback that you might have to fight to get a few extra yards.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not even just speed. It's like these guys all know they're professional tacklers. It's like if you can't get angles on these guys, you know what I mean? So if you have if you have an opening, go straight.
Right.
You're so much better off than trying to come back ever.
It's not like you're playing in college where you may have 1 or 2 other guys on the other side of the ball that, you know, are close to as fast as you. Everyone on that side of defense is just about as fast as you.
Yep.
You don't get to play the worst team. Like that might work against the Jaguars, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
Nah, that reminds me of friend of mine from high school, star running back at my high school. We asked him what's the difference between playing college, because he went to UNC. He was a star running back at UNC for a year, and in high school, he was like, man, like you get a toss play in high school, I always got the edge. I could just outrun people to the edge and just be gone. Said in college, those linebackers can beat you to the edge. And It's just like, oh, wow.
Wow, you're 40 pounds heavier than me and you're outrunning me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And if you're RG3, you just try to run through them and enter.
And that's one thing I actually want to talk about a little bit later too, because I think a lot of people don't understand the level of athleticism that goes on in professional sports. They just have no idea. They see them on TV and they don't understand the relativity there. They don't understand if you were to get on the field,
you're gonna die. You probably
you're literally gonna die.
Especially if you think you got some space or an open. I don't know if y'all watching David Johnson. Like you could tell his career is pretty much wrapped because he had like the sea parted and all he had to do is go, and then some dude grabbed him with one arm and just yoked him back. I was like, damn, you are done.
And every fan in Arizona laughed.
Right.
Because we got D-Hop.
Like, what a terrible trade. Poor Brett. Poor Brett. All right, so let's talk about Matt Ryan a little bit here. From what we saw in this game, we've already talked about the scheme. We've already talked about the way it was called differently. I'll start off by saying this. I have not seen enough of Matt Ryan in this game alone to make me think that his career or he's not what we thought he was 2 weeks ago or the past 3 weeks, really. I think they played to his strengths better this game, but I don't think this is enough. And it was too weak of an opponent to convince me to really say, okay, that was just a blip on Matt Ryan's radar. I hope it is, but I haven't seen enough. What's y'all's opinions of what you saw in this game? Does it change the way you have? And Mike, I know your answer, but Marco, have you seen did you see enough in this game to convince you that those two games were an anomaly?
Michael, you answer first. I want to hear what's your answer.
No, I haven't. I mean, here's the thing. It was, granted, we mentioned this last week when we talked about the game plan, about how we get some openings. There were a lot of openings, and the vast majority of his throws were under 20 yards, which is perfectly which is his strength, because under 20 yards, he can be very accurate. Mm-hmm. Now he over the middle, he still struggles to throw the ball behind receivers or he sails them a little bit and often gets his receivers in trouble. But for the most part, he is very accurate under 20 yards. And so many times, he hit a lot of short 5-10 yard routes, and you got to see how talented our weapons are, because we got a lot of yards after catch today. And Julio had over 100, and probably half of that was after the catch. Ridley had a lot of yards after catch. Yeah, Ridley had a lot of yards after catch, even though he could have had more if he just got upfield. Hurst, that last Hurst touchdown was pretty much all yards after catch. So yeah, it was a 300+ yard game, but I mean, close to half of his yards were probably yak yards. Because we have weapons who can get yards and make people miss in open field. Good. He executed the game plan perfectly, but I think it was because the game plan kept him from trying to throw the ball downfield. It was just play up to your strengths.
Yeah. There's a lot of times where I saw him get panicky, and what he did was he ate the ball this game instead of trying to make a play out of it. And I was like, thank God.
I mean,
there's been so many times where he gets in that pocket, he's like, oh no, I've got to make a play, and he'll try and do something, and his arm is not nearly strong enough to do what he was trying to do, and it goes falls right into the lap of a linebacker or an underneath guy.
I mean, I was never under the impression that Matt Ryan was like done or anything. I'm just saying in the context of what Atlanta is looking like and what we need to do to be successful, Matt Ryan doesn't necessarily fit this, right? So that's why I was saying send him to San Francisco and he instantly makes that team better. Put him in Dallas, he probably makes that team better. In a lot of places, Matt Ryan would still be effective, but we know I didn't foresee that today they were going to come out and call plays that actually benefit Matt Ryan just because we haven't seen that for the first 5 games. You know what I mean? So like, I still think we know who Matt Ryan is, and Matt Ryan is still a top 10 quarterback, right? But it's a tough situation because, like, of course you can win with Matt. You know what I mean? Of course you can. But at the same time, if we're at ground zero, or if we're in a place where, the whole team is falling apart, then you can't have Matt Ryan because he's not going to save you from that. You know what I mean? So it's just about, it's a gut. You want to be like, you want to make a decision quick at the moment and shit. But like being a prisoner of the moment sometimes is like, but still, I think the overwhelming moment is the fact that the Falcons are not good. You know what I mean? And until they prove otherwise that they are, you know what I mean? Then it's still like Matt Ryan does not have a future here, in terms of winning. I mean, his past is greatness and we're appreciative of everything he's done, but he doesn't have a future here in the winning.
Yeah, I'm stuck in between. Matt Ryan is not quite as washed, or let me rephrase. His arm is not as dead as I thought it was. It's still significantly weaker than it, was at any other point in his career. But also, this is a product of going up against a very bad and very young defense. The Minnesota defense in the secondary minus Smith, their free safety, Micah.
Harrison Smith?
Yeah, Harrison Smith. Minus Harrison Smith, they're all first-year starters. They're all very.
What about Anthony Harris?
He's out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But I mean that's saying.
Secondary. Yeah, secondary.
I'm sorry. No, Anthony Harris is back. So he's back from injury now. He played in that game. But
the same bunch was very successful against Seattle last week. So it's like, any given Sunday, man, any given day, Matt Ryan's still going to do what Matt Ryan's good at doing. You know what I mean? It's just that how often does he get those opportunities, especially
granted. But as good as Seattle has been playing, they have a significant advantage at quarterback over us, but their receivers are not Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. They're just not. Like, DK is very good. He's not Julio Jones.
Yeah.
Like, there's a different level of respect, like Micah mentioned earlier, that you're going to have to cede to Julio Jones' side of the field compared to DK. Like, DK will
my point, just real quick, my point in saying that is that because what you're saying further affirms it's like, okay, we have those advantages, so we should be able to exploit them against anybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? But Matt without Julio is also, I'm not taking that, Matt.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely showed this week how much Matt relies on Julio, and that scares me because our other weapons are very good. Are very good, and they're too good to be what happened the last 2 weeks. And the weird thing is, Matt used to look in Shanahan's system when Julio would go down. Matt looked better without Julio. He wouldn't lock onto him.
That's Shanahan.
Well, no, that wasn't Shanahan's system though.
There was
because that year where he threw for 4,000 yards and Julio missed most of the season, that was Dirk Cutter.
Was it?
But it was also. We didn't have great receivers. We had Roddy, we had Tony Gonzalez too, and we had Harry Douglas.
I think Ryan's talking about Super Bowl season and on.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about the season where Matt Ryan threw touchdowns to like 17 different receivers in one season.
Oh, that was Super Bowl season.
He missed like 3
and
games.
Julio missed some time in that season. I think he missed like 1 to 3 games.
Yeah, he missed
so I mean, like there were times where people were like, oh, Julio's out, Matt Ryan's gonna suck, and he'd throw for 400 yards.
But it was against I think it was against San Francisco, the Cardinals. It was like some bad games. It was like really bad games that Julio sat out for. So it's sort of
Tampa.
Yeah, it was some. Yeah. I remember it was towards the end of the season when we were having some layups. But still, I mean, there's always going to be those opportunities. So if Matt has an opportunity to exploit, I think it's just. But it's at the same time that's Shanahan, and Shanahan knows what he's going up against, and he makes sure that everybody else as well.
I mean, like we've discussed before, Shanahan's always going to be the type that I'm going to attack what you can't do until you adjust, and then I'm going to attack somewhere else.
Right. And Matt's one of the smartest quarterbacks probably ever, you know what I mean? So he's going to, with Shanahan, it's like, they're almost unstoppable. Like it should be.
I mean, he's the perfect West Coast quarterback.
Exactly.
He's going to make smart decisions. He's going to get it out, especially when you boot him out a little bit, give him that opportunity to have a cleaner pocket. Matt Ryan can survive in the pocket. But if he doesn't have a great offensive line, we've all seen what happens to him.
Yeah.
But even when the problem is even when the offensive line isn't bad, if you keep him in the pocket, he gets antsy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, oh, eventually it's going to collapse eventually. And it's like, dude, stop with the mental clock. Just do what you need to do. Sometimes there's nobody close to him, and you start seeing his feet like foot fire because he's like, crap, gotta do something with it.
Not a natural scrambler at all. Not at all.
No, he doesn't have the speed to be, or the agility.
Gronk looks super slow.
That kind of quarterback. He's like Tom.
Yeah, I mean, he wishes he was like Tom. Tom's way more elusive in the pocket than Matt Ryan has ever been.
Yeah.
Like Matt, if there's pressure coming, he pretty much is like, oh, crap, and go down. Brady will use his feet to outwork rushers a lot. He's quick with his feet, but he's not fast. Oh, good Lord. That man had to rip Brady's face off.
What happened?
The pass rusher got his entire mitt inside of Brady's face mask and jerked him to the side.
Seeing Phillip Rivers
but no,
pressure is so funny. Like he runs like he got 2 pool cue sticks for legs.
Flag nabbit.
Shoot. But Brady's biggest thing, Brady has really great footwork inside the pocket. Like versus Matt. my dad made the reference, said you should throw some dirt at Matt's feet and he'll trip up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, the footwork difference, like as slow as Brady is, it's almost like watching him in the pocket is almost like ballroom dancing. Like his steps are really clean and smooth, and he feels the rush and he steps everywhere. He moves exactly where he needs to extend the play versus Matt. It's just like, it's kind of aloof at times. And, I've seen him scramble like earlier when he did do that 8-yard run, and he put the move on what's that linebacker? Eric
Barr.
Yeah, not Anthony Barr. It was Eric. Yeah, Kendricks. And he put the move on him, and they were like, oh, he didn't realize he was gonna put a move on him. But I was like, yeah, but he still made the tackle because Matt Tree just like tapped Matt on the thigh. Matt was like, oh
God.
Matt should take some boxing classes. He's supposed to be from Pennsylvania. I wonder if he's ever signed up.
If you're from up north, you need to know how to box.
Right. His footwork definitely shows that he doesn't.
Matt, for everything, Matt, like, I don't want anyone listening, if you're a first-time listener or anything like that, like, none of us, I don't think you could qualify any of us as Matt Ryan haters. Except for what?
Micah.
I'm not a here's the I'm not
Micah
a hater, but
hold on, Micah. Micah kind of teeters with the hatred, but it's like he flirts with it. He's like, Matt Ryan sucks at everything he does. Well, but not this.
It's more so it's more so with great finance comes great responsibility. And as much as we paid him, it's like I need to see more. I legitimately want to see him be this guy to when the team needs somebody to step up, him to be the guy that says, I got this. And to be confident in him when he says, I got this. And that all too often we haven't seen that. And that's my frustration.
He's not no superstar, that's for damn sure.
Well, yeah, but he's getting paid like one, and that's why I'm critical.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to get into the whole like market discussion here because it's a whole episode for another day. Yeah. Let's talk about two things before we wrap this up. Wow, what a throw! I want to talk about the run game and our rededication to it. Now, granted, we did not run the ball nearly as well this game just because Minnesota was, like Micah said earlier, they were keying in on the run. They knew what we were trying to do, and they loaded the box on us. I do like what we've done over the past 2 to 3 weeks with Gurley, and we've decided that our offense is going to be running the ball to open up the pass game. And I think that's helped Matt. We saw the benefits of that with Matt this week, where when the play actions were being used and being called, the defense did have to respect it. Now, you're able to do that in games that you're winning, where you're trying to, when you're up 25 points for most of the game, you're able to run Gurley into walls and just make the defense respect it. But I do like the fact that we are using the run game more. We're making it a purpose to make Gurley a part of this offense.
It's funny though. It's just like you just said. It's like, oh, when you're up,
right,
it becomes easy. But obviously, that's not something we do either. It's like everything that's supposed to be implied and obvious has already gone out the window this season for the Falcons. So
exactly. Now, I mean, we're going to run into some teams here coming up, but I don't know. I mean, even though it wasn't effective this game, when teams scout you, they're going to see that look again, and they're going to see, as long as Dirk Cutter is as smart as he says he is, and man, he says he's smart. That's going to help in the long term as far as the play action goes. And especially it's going to help with, just getting Gurley his legs back under him. Gurley can be an effective runner. I think we've seen that he's bounced back. He doesn't quite have the long speed that he used to, but his vision is still there. His ability to bounce it outside, his jump cuts are still there. Him and the combination of Brian Hill can be effective for us, I think. But with the run game and the way the pass game looked, what would y'all prefer the offense to look like going forth? Do you want to see run first, pass off the run, or use the pass game to open up the run? If because I mean, we don't know what we're going to see for the rest of the season because, granted, we have Dirk Cutter, but we don't know what Raheem Morris's influence on us is going to be. So I want to hear what you guys think we should do and how we should do it. Open floor.
Yeah, personally, I think we should run the ball to help open up the passing game. But I mean, that's typically how that Shanahan offense is supposed to be run. Use the run game to, and like I mean, you can pass, you can run short passes and whatnot, but the run game helps set up a lot of the passing plays, and especially the big chunk passing plays, because if you're running the ball, you don't have to be running it like, running 160 yards, but if you run it effective enough, like defenses bite on play action. and that was a lot of our big chunk plays came on play action where we get an open receiver, Matt hit him, and they just took off. I think that's the way you kind of have to do it. Even though, yeah, it says we only ran for 99 yards total.
Like 30 some odd attempts, right?
37. But I think a lot of that was, I think part of the reason we didn't do better is because we did get stuffed on some obvious 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1 when they were 10 in the box. We tried to run it and then got stuffed. And whereas, for the early, especially first half, we 4 or 5 yards a game, a run play. And then second half, they really started putting people down in the box to keep us from running. And we still just kind of handed it off. And it's like, all right, keep the clock running and whatnot. But I think just the fact that we ran it really opened up a lot of the passing opportunities and gave Matt a lot of easy passes as opposed to trying to force it into tight coverage.
One thing to talk about in this game is the fact that we ran for, out of our 24 first downs, we ran for 5 of them, which is something that we typically don't see. Those 3rd and 1s where we run it, we don't get those typically. You saw Gurley pushing the pile. And again, I hate to do it, but I just feel like that's a product of a weaker defense. We'll see when you run into like the second half of the schedule, see how that really looks. But it's at least a promising sign that Gurley was starting to move piles and really able to get those short yardage downs that we really needed. We also just absolutely dominated time of possession. We doubled them up in this game because of our ability to run the ball and keep the clock running. And use those short passing gains to get those, short downs and things like that. So it was a good game. I don't want to put too much stock into this game. I don't want to, put the cart ahead of the horse here, because we are still a 1-5 team, as talented as we are. And we did play another now 1-5 team. It's hard to judge. Marco, what would you do?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're good enough to be like, we have to do one thing. You know what I mean? I think the most important thing here is balance, and whether you pass first, run second, or run first, pass second. It's just about balance. And I think a lot of times, especially in today's NFL, you just have to be more agile, unless you really just have the personnel to be a team that, like the Titans, we're just going to run it down your throat, or the Ravens, where, we could just get in a shotgun and get a first down no matter what. I mean, not shotgun, like a wing tee, whatever the hell they
little pistol offense.
Pistol, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think what's best is that we take what they give us, you know what I mean? And mix it up so that we don't become predictable, and that, but they always, they have to respect it enough to know that we can do both, because I think as long as they know that you can do both, it doesn't matter which one you establish first. But it just by rule of thumb, I think they say that because it's harder to establish your run than it is to
always,
so that's why they say you should do that first. But at the same time, it's like, you have to do what, you have to just throw defenses off. You can't stick to one script, because especially when you don't have the offensive line to make that kind of thing happen.
Well, yeah, I agree to an extent. I think there's a couple of offenses that can say, no, that's not true. You don't always have to do that. You need to run effectively. You don't need to establish the run, but you need to be able to run effectively when you do run the ball. And that's something that we haven't been able to do in quite some time. Just because your running back isn't getting 100 yards doesn't mean you're not a good running team. Like the Patriots for years. I mean, when's the last time they put out 1,000-yard rusher?
Probably a Blunt.
Like Corey Dillon, maybe?
It was Blunt.
Yeah.
Maybe Blunt. Oh yeah, I can't remember stats though.
But few and far between, right? I mean, that's how That's how few thousand-yard rushers they've had in that system. And I think it's a lot about the execution of your passing game and the type of passing that you do. Dirk Cutter just thinks passing the ball means throwing it more than 20 yards, whereas the Chiefs and the Patriots and really the Eagles for a couple of years there knew that passing it meant throwing it to the soft spot in the zone or taking advantage of the weaker defenders. And really the 2016 Falcons did that as well. So I don't agree that teams have to be balanced. It helps keeping teams like that. But I think we're a talented team enough with our weapons that with the right scheme, we can do whatever we want to a defense if we just scheme it up right. No one can stop Julio without doubling him. Ridley's getting to the point where he is a one-on-one nightmare. Gage is good enough out of the slot that where he can beat a bad nickel corner. The big thing that we've lost is really that tight end. At least it looks like we've lost that, and maybe we're just not utilizing him correctly. But with Hooper, we had a one-on-one matchup winning tight end. I mean, then that's what sometimes you need that type of guy. And Hurst has not shown it yet, but who knows if that's just Dirk Cutter or if that's Hayden Hurst.
No, I think part of Hurst's I won't say inefficiency, but lack of production has more to do versus Hooper's production last year was just comfort level.
Yeah.
I mean, Hooper was here for 4 years. So Matt got comfortable.
Endless summer hours with Matt Ryan.
Exactly. Matt got comfortable with him. Hurst is coming off of a season where he gets traded us in the offseason, and Corona kept teams from practicing and stuff like that. So they haven't had a chance to build the rapport yet that Matt had with Hooper. So of course they're gonna have to build some chemistry. So there are plenty of times where Hurst is burned man coverage, but Matt didn't see it. Like last game. Where he went to him the one play and overthrew him. Next play, Hurst beats coverage again, and Matt holds on to the football. So, I mean.
Is Ryan still there?
Yeah, I don't know.
He is in the frozen land. No, but yeah, I mean, I think Hurst. I don't know if Hooper was a better route runner or something than Hurst. I don't see that. Like I think it just has a lot to do with chemistry and Matt having to be able to find him, at the opportune times.
According to Pro Football Focus, Hurst up.
I'm the host.
And we're down. So you're yeah.
Oh,
his internet went down again.
Okay, so it stopped recording for now, I think. It says we're live, but it's not recording.
Live on YouTube, but are you watching the YouTube from your phone?
No.
Week 2.
Do you have it up? Is it still
on? Ryan said he'll join. Let me find it. Yeah, I can't find the link.
Okay, so we're not live anymore. Let me see, view stream on YouTube.
I want him to get back in here so we can potentially save it.
No, we still live.
It said we're still live.
Yeah.
I can't find the link.
I'm here.
It says you can just like right click on Zoom, it'll take you to the link.
Keep it going.
All right, there we go. So what was the last thing you heard
I was in the middle of talking. That's all I know. And I heard Marco go, "Is Ryan still there?"
Oh, so that we couldn't hear.
Yeah.
The last thing we said
Um.
was Michael was talking about Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, I was just saying that. I don't remember. I just know that how invaluable, all those hours with your quarterback are in building a chemistry, especially in a new system, is so valuable. So, I mean, also coming into a system with Dirk Cutter, that's going to play a big role because he's not a big tight end guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think there's a lot of problems with this team in the way it was built, especially on the coaching side, mainly offensively, that need to be changed. But who would have thought at this point, if you would have talked to us in 2018, at the end of the 2018 season, that you would say, you know what, you're really going to miss Steve Sarkisian. You're really going to miss him.
Yeah.
And he's going to be leading an ungodly offensive attack at Alabama.
With a quarterback with no
I want to
talent.
talk about that.
Number 10 on Alabama has no talent.
Mac something. He was a 3-star recruit.
Every ball was short as hell, and his receivers would just come back and scoop that shit up.
They've got 3 guys on their wide receiver core that could be first-round picks.
Yeah, definitely that one dude with the dreads, 17, I think.
I don't.
Oh, Waddle.
Yeah,
Jalen. God, Waddle's so fast.
Busy. What's his name?
Marco, to what you said though, according to Pro Football Focus last year, Hooper 75% of Hooper's catches came from just finding holes in coverage and running underneath coverage. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like necessarily this like, oh, I'm beating man-to-man coverage. It's just like he knew how to find a hole in a zone and where Matt could see him and get him the ball.
Right. So is that a function of is that just something he inherently has? Like, is that an X factor in Hooper? Or is that time? And knowing the playbook.
Time, but I also I think it's just, like I said, chemistry. So like he would find holes in zone, and he knew Matt would always look for him. So it was just like, all right, if I just find a hole in the zone, or all right, they're in cover they're in a cover 2, like cover 2 scheme. I'm just gonna run underneath so these linebackers can't get to me. Matt will see me and hit me and I'll get up. I just got to get upfield. So just like I said, he just knew how to find holes in zones, and he knew Matt. He had chemistry with Matt, so Matt often looked for him especially when he needed to be bailed out.
Speaking of Hooper, the Case Keenum era has begun.
Yeah, Baker.
Cleveland.
Boy, Baker's either on fire or looks like he shouldn't be in the NFL.
Yeah,
he hurt his chest though. Apparently,
my bloody chest.
My bloody chest.
All right, so the last thing I wanted to talk about, and it's more of a whole, but let's focus on one guy. AJ Terrell.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want to give y'all a lead in on this. What is y'all's opinion of AJ Terrell and that first round draft pick? 6 games into the season. Marco.
I can't really say I noticed him today, but I mean, Did you
watch the game?
I had it on mute while I had Red Zone on, so I didn't notice specifically what he was doing. But I mean, I know y'all. Tell me, how did he do today?
Mike, go for it.
Let me go ahead. For one, typically when you don't notice a corner, especially one on the outside, that's a damn good thing. So he mirrored Thielen most of the game. Thielen had 2 catches for like 46 yards, and one of them was like a 30-plus yard reception.
Where he was draped all over him.
Yeah, and I mean and it was a great catch by Thielen. But he was active in the run game, was making nice tackles. Really, like I said, he looks outside of the COVID incident, he's been everything. He's good as advertised, basically. So as dominant as he was at Clemson, I know a lot of people gave him flack for the national championship game where he got beat on like 2 plays, or like he had a handful of plays his entire senior last year that you could count. Well, no, I'm just talking about his last year that you could say, oh yeah, he got beat. But for the most part, a lot of it was either they were playing bad teams and he got a little lazy, or like in that national championship game, Joe Burrow was just throwing dimes. He dropped some perfect passes, and there was nothing. I don't care who you are as a corner, with some of those passes he threw, there's nothing you can do. So he looked just as good as advertised. So far, like I said, to take a very like one of the touchdown leader in the NFL, Adam Thielen, and to hold him to 2 catches in a game is impressive. So
he wound up with 3 catches after that. That one touchdown, but that wasn't even right. We were in zone.
That was trash touchdown. Basically, it was garbage time. He scored a touchdown.
Yeah. So, I mean, boy, watching the game as a whole, Marco, AJ was everywhere. He made an amazing play on that interception he had. He's a dog in the run game. He will come down and he will thump somebody. I mean, he hits like a safety, and he's got great instincts. His closing speed and his ability to mirror guys on their quick moves is just perfect. He's going to be a number 1 corner for a long time. It just depends on who develops on the other side of him. You know, is Oliver going to be the guy who we saw today, or is Oliver going to be the guy we saw in the first 4 games? I think that's really the big thing. We also need to get we need some safety help a little bit as well in the secondary. So, I mean, the second part of this was from what we've seen in the secondary with the youth, do we still have to address that coming up in the draft? And this will be the last thing we talk about today. Do we still have to address the secondary in the draft? Or do we have enough pieces that we can say, you know what, this is who we have, and this is what we're going to move forward with?
I think you always got to sort of look to shore up a spot, especially a spot that we went into the season thinking of as a weakness. I mean, we definitely have good pieces there, but yeah, you definitely want to keep on getting depth at that position, and they all tend to get hurt. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't go on that, just say that because people are getting hurt. But I mean, I just think you need depth at that position.
Yeah, I mean, I forget. I think it was Belichick that said, you know, you can never have too many athletes in the secondary. You're always going to need more there. But don't forget that we do still have Darqueze Dennard, and he will be coming back at some point during this season. Mm-hmm. We saw what he can do there. Mm-hmm. So with AJ Terrell locking down the number 1 spot, Darqueze probably being our nickelback still. You know, the number 2 corner spots between Sheffield and Oliver. And I think that's an ongoing competition, what we're going to see until Darqueze comes back. And then whoever loses that is obviously going to shift to our dime back and reserve role, but you know, if someone needs a breather or someone gets hurt. I haven't seen what I typically see from Rico this year, but I also haven't seen him, you know, make highlights and getting, you know, getting mossed or getting burned deep or missing assignments. He's been solid. He's where he needs to be. He's just not. If we stay in this cover 3 scheme, he's not what you need to roam that center field. He's not rangy enough. I don't think KZ is either. And KZ is a ball hawk, but I don't think he's got enough range to really do it. And he's not where. I'll say this. KZ is a far better has far better ball skills than Rico. Rico has far better knowledge of the game. So it's like what one lacks, the other one makes up for. If you could just merge them into one player, that's what we need. So I think we need to re-sign Kiki if he continues on this trajectory. I think he's exactly what we wanted him to be, and he's back to getting healthy. What do you guys think? Kiki, keep him or let him walk? Because he's not going to get top flight safety money.
If he can stay healthy for the rest of the season, I say keep him.
I'm just torn.
Cool.
I mean, I'm torn just because it depends on how much he wants. If he has a good season, he very well could be like, I want $10 million a year, which in that case you got to let him go.
See ya.
But I mean, safe like secondary wise, yeah, keep addressing it. We're gonna need more safeties. We're gonna need because of Rico's getting older. And financially, I mean, you never know. You might actually have to move Rico if you like if cap gets tight, especially when they're talking about the cap going down to potentially 175 million next year. So I mean, what you probably gonna have to draft or free agency. Not to mention we have like four guys, 4 bench safeties who are all like decimated right now.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Actually, there was one more thing that I wanted to talk about. So thus far to the season, I forget the exact numbers. We got, let's see, we had 1 sack this game. I think that brings us to I think like 8 or 9 on the season. Our boy Dante Fowler has not really lived up to what he was supposed to be. He only has 1 sack through 6 games on the season. So yet again, here we are, unable to bring the quarterback down. Now, granted, we are getting pressures where, Dante Fowler is a great run defending defensive end, but he's not what we wanted. But what do we do? Do we go out and sign a free agent there? Do we draft a guy? Because to really make a difference, you either, if we're a top 5 pick, you're either going to get a game-changing defensive end or the future of your franchise at quarterback.
It depends. I think, to be honest, I like Fowler though, mainly partially because of the run, but I think a lot of it is nobody on our defensive line is really getting a lot of pressure. Even Grady, I did not hear Grady's name called much at all this game.
He was running the ball quite a bit.
Yeah, well, like I said, some games he imposes his will, but this game it was just kind of like, he didn't look that great. Now, Alan Bailey at D tackle was getting all kinds of penetration. He actually did. He got the 1 sack, but and he got a couple big hits on old Kirk Cousins towards the end of the game. Charles Harris, we're gonna have to replace Charles Harris. Honestly, if anything, like I would love to have Tack because Tack can provide pressure, but
can't stay healthy, man.
Exactly. Right. I mean, I'm at the point now where I'm just like, we just need to go ahead and trade him for the trade deadline, see what we can get for him. So, but yeah, I mean, other than that, I think long term, I'd probably go quarterback over pass rusher, unless because I don't know if it's another Chase Young or
Rousseau's absolute pass rusher coming out, and he
dominant pass rusher. You said which one?
Rousseau out of Miami, but he's not even playing this year.
He's good, but he's not that level. I wouldn't give that high of a pick. Now, if we're 12 to 15, maybe, but I'm not going that high for. This is a much deeper quarterback draft than it is
right
pass rusher draft.
It's like a quarterback out of, if it wasn't Fields or Trevor, you'd still go a quarterback.
You'd take Trey Lance.
Trey Lance.
Would you take Trey
Well, it
Lance?
depends.
with the
Yeah, if
fourth
both of
pick?
them are gone, then I mean,
Oh well.
there's no real pressure. There's no pressure unless you're planning on trading Matt Ryan right off the rip and like in the offseason and going with them. I mean, there's no real pressure to start Trey Lance right out the gate. So it's like kind of like Tua in Miami. So
well, quite
get your
frankly,
guy of the future early, and
without trading Matt Ryan, I do not think that we can get Trevor Lawrence.
No, there's no way. It doesn't make sense. But the reason I ask these questions is to kind of exploit the limbo that we put ourselves in again as an Atlanta Falcons, team. We're winning. We won this, and it's like, oh no, are we going to do what we did the last 2 years and win on the back end when it's pointless? And like, oh, these pieces do have a future here, or should we be playing to lose? It's just like I don't want to get into that discussion now because we've already talked about that. But
that's what I'm saying. As long as Matt Ryan's here, we're gonna win enough games to not get Trevor Lawrence. I mean,
right.
Matt's gonna at least get 5 games. I mean,
yeah. I mean, there's too much talent on this team to not win 5 games, 4 or 5 games, and that immediately takes you out of the running for a quarterback, or at least the better quarterbacks.
Robo Micah. I am Robo Micah.
We'll put him in the waiting room. Let's see if that fixes him. Probably not. But yeah, let's wrap this one up as Mike is rebooting his modem. Yeah, now he's gone for good. As he's slowly turning into, we'll wrap this up and take it on home. This has been the third. This is our third or fourth post game review.
I think it was the Monday night. It was because
we did a live one, but then also didn't do the post game. So technically our fourth.
Okay.
But yeah, this has been the Fish and Grits podcast, Falcons post game review.
Live edition.
Yeah, the live edition. First one after a win. We'll see how many more of these we get. We may just come on here and be sad for the rest of the year. So thanks for joining us, those who did join us on the live, and thanks for watching for those who will be watching it afterwards.
I go Braves.
Yeah. If you are an Atlanta fan, let's put all of our chips into the bucket tonight for the Braves, and let's get a World Series title here. Let's bless the city with a win.
Yes, sir.
So see you guys. Thanks for joining.
Mike